afternoon to all our listeners and viewers of the NDC Heartbeat podcast. We want to welcome all those who are listening on radio via WeFM, Vibes FM, Spice Capital Radio, Talk Grenada, and indeed those who are on the NDC Facebook online platform and on YouTube. Well, for today's podcast, we'll be chatting with the Minister of Health. First of all, we talk about his constituency and then his newly assigned portfolio as the new Minister of Health. We'll also share a clip on the recent opening of the much anticipated launch of the Consumer Affairs Office and to recognize the observance of World Rights Day. The opening of this new office has gotten the attention of several regional media outlets, praising Grenada on this accomplishment by government. The minister responsible for consumer affairs, among other ministerial portfolios which she holds, is the Honorable Claudette Joseph, who launched this new office earlier on this week. We'll also share with you a rebroadcast of the Prime Minister's recent National Security Press Conference, which was considered very timely, gripping, forthright, and demonstrated leadership, character, and above all, honesty, integrity, and strength. Now, for those of you listening on radio, the program today will extend beyond the hour with the Prime Minister's rebroadcast of this week's press conference. And I would want to invite you, therefore, to log on to the NDC Facebook online platform after 1 p.m. so that you can continue listening and viewing. Well, that's your program for today. Do join us again next Sunday as we bring you other interesting interviews and programs.
This Sunday, March 17th, everyone will be heading to Sates in St. Patrick's as the St. Patrick's 50th Independence Celebrations Committee and SPOD presents the St. Patrick's Day Celebrations. It's an all-day affair and it starts from 6 a.m. with a farmers market and exhibition from businesses, local arts and craft, health and wellness check. Look out for the train ride from midday, steel pan music throughout the day, cultural and traditional mass, Beko, Shotney, Apache, Maypole, and more. Trust me, this will be an extravaganza. And we close things off with live performances from top reggae, calypso, and soca artists, kings and queens from the north, featuring King Scholar, Lady Cinti, Nivian Cox, Young Song, Boise, Lunis Park, and Electrify, Soca Shack, Zutiman, and much more. And look out for the fireworks display. So bring out the entire family this Sunday, March 17th. Come, let's celebrate St. Patrick's. For vending, contact SPOD or 410-9170. It's the St. Patrick's Day celebrations.
Here now is the Honorable Philip Telesford, newly appointed Minister for Health. Welcome back, Minister. Good of you to be on the Heartbeat today.
Yeah, thank you, Terry, and a very wonderful Sunday afternoon to all our listeners at home and in the diaspora. I trust that everyone is having a wonderful Sunday afternoon.
Well, yes, indeed. And as usual, it's another beautiful, warm Sunday afternoon in Grenada. For those who are in the cold, we send you some warmth and some love. Hope that you can embrace this and warm your afternoon in whatever cold city you are. But Minister, we want to chat a bit about, first of all, we want to talk about your constituency, what you have been doing, the portfolio which you handed over to your colleague, and also this new portfolio which has been bestowed upon you. And I must add is that the Ministry of Health is probably the most challenging ministry in the entire aspect of governance. It has always been, and therefore it says something about your strengths. And Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell obviously knew that you possess such strength. to continue with it. But of course, you're taking over from an equally strong minister, Lecret, whom has the tenacity and has the strength, has the capacity. But first of all, let's talk about your constituency. What's happening there? What have you been doing, and how are things progressing?
Well, thank you very much, Terry. Well, first and foremost, the constituency, the branch, is actually warming up for branch elections. All of the positions are available, up for grabs, and so they're warming up for that. And we look forward to a good turnout. And we believe that there might be some changes in the executive and so on. So we're excited. We have a nice program of activities lined up, a nice agenda for St. George Southeast. And with that, I take the opportunity to send warm greetings to all the members of St. George Southeast, all of the citizens. I've had the opportunity to walk about the constituency over the past few months and touch base with a number of people that I haven't seen for long enough time. We operate with a schedule. So sometimes we in one area, then we branch, we go to another area, and so on and so on. But we have been doing that. And the thing about it is that it takes quite a lot of time, because when you're an MP, it's very different to when you're on the outside. That when you visit people, they want to engage you in a conversation and make recommendations, especially now that I'm in health. There are just so much recommendation, so much energy. And you know, you got to take the time to listen to people. And so it takes a longer time to get through to members of the constituency. But we have been rotating the visits. We do it mainly on Sunday afternoons. We start at 3 p.m. and take our time, meet with people, hear their concerns, and try to respond to their needs. So apart from the constituency visit, we have been fixing a number of roads and building new ones too. But the road repair has been something, road and drainage in particular, has been something that we had to treat with, because we've had a number of situations that created damage to people's property, and we had to sort of bring some order and regulation as far as that is concerned, so that the water do not continue to damage people's property and so on. So we have been doing a lot of that. The cleanliness of the constituency, by and large, the cleaning of the drains, the overhanging. I think we can say proudly that those who have been engaged in that work for us have done a fantastic job. Southeast is very clean. But there's some, things to be done still. There's some areas where the overhanging is still too much overgrown. So we have to respond to those areas. So we have done quite a lot as far as the upkeep of the constituency is concerned.
Great, fantastic. What would you say are some of the main requests coming in from your constituents? What are they asking for? What are the hopes and aspirations for the constituency?
We have the issue of skill training and development, utilization of the community centers, reaching out to our senior citizens and to our young children, and transference or transferal of values. That we've had a number of community meetings. One of the things that came out of the community meetings, whether they were on the block sessions or those meetings that are sponsored by the NGOs within the communities, is that transfer of values. What is transfer of values? The way we live. And I've come to understand that Marion is one of the most, the fastest developing village within the constituency. They're rising with some measure of prominence and quality, but they want to be able to transfer the values to the younger generation, so that they can carry the torch, as it were. The same thing is happening for Library. Library is a bit different in that they had an issue of the infiltration of drugs, and it's no secret. And we had some measure of violence in small pockets in that village in Library. And so the villagers have spoken about that, and they want a fix, and they recognize what is needed to be done. So again, it's the same issue of stimulating. They're a bit different. They want to sort of stimulate sporting and cultural activities within Library, right? And in so doing, that will help to transfer the way of life by intermingling and utilizing energies and skills in a way that it is positive towards community building. So that is how they envision the growth. So all of the villages are different, and we have to find a way as to bridge the gap, right? We have Monterey. Monterey is a community that has been again growing, not at the same pace as Marion, but what they have embraced a quality of life, right? They have embraced an orderly societal living. So that those set of values they want to transfer, right? And then we have people in Springs, and so that area going on the main road all the way back to Calivini, they have been clamoring for a common place where they can meet and where they can exchange things, values, and start discussing how we can build our constituency. I know recently they formed a community group. They have not really invited me in yet, but they just sent me the message that they formed a community group finally, and they are developing a set of programs that they would like to do. So I simply said to them, well, go right ahead. Government is going to provide whatever support you need to make it happen. But they do need a center. They need a place where they can socialize, where they can do some skill training, where they can start really seriously discussing community matters. So that's basically, in a nutshell, how the constituency is formed.
Right. Well, it is said that you won a constituency which was held by a very prominent and strong opposition member, the former Honorable Gregory Boeing. What would you say is responsible then for your success being the elected member of parliament?
I don't necessarily want to say that, but I want to say that I want to be the best possible representative for the constituency. My style is a bit different because I operate sort of quietly, but we do quite a lot of stuff on the inside. We visit people at the hospital, for example. You wouldn't hear that, you wouldn't see that on Facebook. We reach out to senior citizens. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, without prompting, without requesting, like single moms who we know that they need, we were able to do some food hampers as recent as yesterday. Senior citizens who are bedridden. Some of them, we cannot reach everybody sometimes with the limited resources we have. That's the kind of thing that we do. We meet with people, we pray with people, we counsel, and not just me, because I have a team of people that work alongside me. We channel people to jobs, the young men in particular, right? Sometimes I'm disappointed, I must admit, with our young men, and I keep making that call. Our young men need to embrace a career. I've helped a few young men with jobs within the private sector, and they did not remain on the job. because it calls for a measure of discipline, punctuality, abiding with the rules and regulations of the organization and so on. And they need to understand that with work environment, you have to stoop to conquer to get to where you have to go. And I continue to counsel with these young men because I really want to see them off the street. I want to see them building a career, embracing a trade. And as speaking of trade, next week I meet with my community liaison officer to start rolling out a program for skill training,
Right.
whether it has to do with textiles, or as we call it, sewing, plumbing, electrical, furniture making. I've had a number of people who have approached me, volunteering their time and skill to transfer these skills to those who are interested. So we are just about planning the rollout of these programs now, because we really want to see our young men get involved in skill training and learn a trade and have the discipline to keep a job, because the ability to keep a job tells a whole long story.
Oh yeah.
It speaks to family, why you can't keep a relationship, and all of these things, why people tend to treat you the way that they treat you, because of the same discipline. And I encourage us as men. I know we have a lot of ego. Sometimes we need to tone it down, examine and re-examine ourselves, and try to really embrace things that are positive amongst us and build up from there. This is an era of transformation. It's about moving up and up and up. But how do we do that? We must embrace the values, the positive things to help us to move in that direction.
Well, it's going to be a national challenge, and I know that Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell and his team are certainly up to that challenge, which is the engagement of young people, men in particular, and as you rightfully put it, instilling that sense of discipline and value, which was eroded over the many years. So it's difficult to now pull that back. Last week, I was talking to Minister Jonathan Lacrette, and he expressed a program which he is launching to deal with these issues regarding youth and how we can pull our youth back into alignment with the purpose and goals and the transformational agenda which the government has set for the development of the youth and the country. And we need the youth with its power, with its energy, with its ability to, move along quickly, etc. And of course, 65% of our population is under 35. So we do need that extra hand. So I'm happy to hear that you are doing your bit in your constituency. Coming back to your constituency, what would you say are some of the urgent matters that you are now handling to meeting the needs of the constituency based on your constituency manifesto, which you ran on?
Right. So, well, the urgent things I would consider has to be that skill training, because of the deficit that we face and because of the level of unemployment amongst our males. I think that is the most critical thing. It's not a physical monument that one builds. It's not a road or a drain that you can look at and see, but being able to reach people right where they are. Right. That, to me, that is the most critical things. Our senior citizens, we've always spoken about them because we've left them behind for a long period of time. Something touched my heart a few months ago, January. I visited a gentleman and I said to him, you used to take me to school, because he was a bus driver.
Wow.
And he's bedridden at this time. And I'm not sure if he can actually speak, right? But he just squeezed my hand so tightly, and the tears start pouring down. I said, but you're responsible for me today, because had it not been for people like you, I'm not going to be where I am. So reaching out to these people, to me, it is the most fundamental issue. There's a program that we have coming up in the next few weeks where we're going to treat with our senior citizens, take them around. A lot of them have been home for a long time, haven't seen the city, haven't seen the hustle and bustle in Grandance. So we're going to have a bus that will take them around so that they can actually just kind of see Grenada in its natural form. It doesn't have to be a Saturday or Sunday, any day of the week. And then we're going to do some screening and blood pressure testing right at their home, so they're not coming out in the community center or anywhere like that.
Wonderful.
I've already spoken to our colleagues. They're going to go in. You're going to have medical professional on hand, test the blood sugar, test the pressure, check them out, and give them a little advice and a word of encouragement. So those fine things, you're not going to see that on Facebook. You're not going to hear about it on the news. But these are the fine things touching people right in their homes, that the people that need us most.
Wow.
So that,
fantastic.
And these are the core things that we're focusing right now.
Fantastic indeed. I mean, this is really, really commendable. And now that you are the Minister of Health, it empowers you even more to reach out to these folks in your constituency and in several other constituencies throughout Grenada. I mean, this is indeed really touching people's lives, as you express clearly. Okay, so you obviously have advanced significantly with your constituency manifesto objectives, which you presented when you were campaigning. So congratulations in that particular area. Is there any final word you'd like to make on your constituency before we move into the other subject matter?
Yeah, well, I would make an appeal to the sport clubs, the cultural clubs, the little NGOs within the communities, to continue to organize, get yourselves together, and develop programs. And don't be afraid to approach us to ask for support, because community development is not about politics. It's about keeping your community together. It's about building, it's about transfer of knowledge and skills and values and attitudes to the next generation. So you, the seniors in the constituencies who have the resources, who have the time to and the know-how to actually assist in that area, you really should be doing it. And so we ask you to continue to do what you have been doing, and you can reach out to us. I don't need to show up to any of these events, right? If you don't want me to show up, because we don't want to color those things in any kind of yellow or green, I don't need to be there. But I can provide in the background, provide the support so that you can get things going. And we do have a community liaison officer who works with the constituency, who can be a direct liaison to get things going. So let me just take this opportunity to give the office number. And the office is a place where there is a no politics zone. So you can go there and get support. And the number there is 440-6183. Call the office if you have a community project that you want to do. You're looking for support, just call the number 440-6183. And the officers there, they're going to be more than willing to help you and to accommodate you.
Okay, and that is your parliamentary office.
Parliamentary office, not our party office.
Good. And your parliamentary office is located where?
Parliamentary office is located at Laborie.
Laborie.
George, yes.
Okay, 440-6142.
No, 6183.
6183. Good. 440-6183. That's your parliamentary office.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much indeed for this update on your constituency. And then we'll go to the next subject matter is the ministry which you left only just a few months ago. So we'll take a short break and we'll come right back with that conversation. And then we'll move on to your now substantive position as minister responsible for health. So back with you in a moment.
Join us as we celebrate Get Grenada Swimming's 10th anniversary. Dive into a world of adventure and discovery from the 2nd to the 6th of April 2024 between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. Get Grenada Swimming is offering swim lessons for children 5 years and older and adults as well. There are swim lessons being offered in all parishes in Grenada, Carriacou and Petit Martinique. Each lesson lasts for 1 hour. We have instructors eager to teach you. Swimming is not just a skill. It is a gateway to confidence, fun, and a healthier lifestyle. Our lessons are designed to welcome all, from beginners to those looking to improve their strokes. All lessons are free. Register today via www.getgrenadaswimming.com.
Welcome back to Heartbeat, Minister Telesford. You are now the minister responsible for health. And I would say with no reservation whatsoever, health is probably the most difficult ministry to run in the entire government. It has always been, and I guess it will continue to be, because it really touches the lives of people. And you seem to have a special knack with respect to touching lives. Tell us about your experience in the Ministry of Health. How is it going? What are your projections? And just share with us the Ministry of Health.
Right. So I think after close to 3 months, I can say that there is a clear path to success. I think we've been able to carve out that to sift through and determine what are the things we can start doing now as of 2024. What are the things we're going to actually achieve? And so the management team is strong. We recognize areas where there has to be some measure of change. We have recognized that. And so I think the ministry right now is poised to take off, right? Our buzzword is change. We can't continue to just do the same thing over and over. We must embrace change. We must have that innovative mindset to re-examine everything amongst us, and that is where we have been. I've been very, very busy over the past few weeks during in this ministry. It feels like more than 24 hours in a day, right? Seriously, because sometimes it takes me late into the night. I'm attending meetings and functions, but it's all good because it's basically meeting with all peoples within the health service sector, all of the councils and the other organizations, the private entities that make up the health sector, and so on, the allied providers, and so on, SGU and all the other people that is part of the mix. So health is a complex set of organizations, if I put it like that, to bring together a single service, and the service caring for those who need us most, the sick.
Right.
I think we've been able to make some serious inroads so far. I think we understand what is there. My focus has been to read the legislative framework, look at all the frameworks that really embody health, and that helped me to really appreciate why we do things the way we do it and the changes that has to be made. So we are now, having understood that, having met with the various service providers and and council chairs and different organizations, I believe we are in a comfortable position now to start implementing our Vision 24, which means vision next 24 months. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. What would you say are some of the continuing nagging issues and problems which the Ministry of Health faces?
But first and foremost has to do with the issue of the regularization of staff. And I use the word regularization guardedly, because there's some staff that can be regularized, and that we have done. And when we got in, we set the target date for that as the 31st of March. Well, some work was started on that already, so it's just a matter of continuing. So we set it 31st of March, and the information has since been sent down to the Public Service Commission. We got approval from DPA, Senate Public Service Commission. So those who can be regularized within that setting, nurses, doctors, and other ancillary service providers within the hospital and other outfits, we have sent that information down, and more likely than not, is going to be approved in short order, if it has not been so approved as yet. So that part of it is happening. The renewal of contracts, and I know the opposition takes this out of context when we talk about the renewal of contract, but if you get into a system where people have had no contract, they're being paid, but they don't have an instrument of appointment for years.
Wow.
Whether you're a nurse, a doctor, and that's a fact. There are people operating on expired contracts and people who have never had a contract.
Wow.
And it's hard to really fathom that is the case, but it is the case. So what is the first thing you do? You first want to recognize them as somebody in the system. So you basically either renew or issue a contract to recognize you as an employee. Right? So that's the first thing you have to do. So 2024, I want to ensure that every single body who are providing a service within the sector be given a contract. And with that, there is a complex problem. Because you have not been given a contract, you've been paid the same money that you've been paid when you started, let's say 10 years ago. You've been paid the same salary. You cannot claim any kind of, you don't get any kind of increase or any kind of recognition because you're not recognized in the system.
Right.
How are we doing? We now, in giving them that instrument, you now have to calculate for that period of time how much increases you should have gotten, and that will be added to your salary, and that is what you're going to get. So to take you, because if you don't do that, you'll find, and that is actually happening, you'll find people who just come in, they're getting more money than somebody who was there 10 years ago because you never got a salary increase. So when you have the union speaking about issuing no contract should be issued on the opposition or whoever it is, and I'm not attacking anybody. The opposition is doing what they're supposed to do. They're making noises, they, drawing things to attention, and that's it. That's what it is. But we have to be sensible. Terry, we have to be sensible. We must appreciate where we are and the things that must be urgently done. And one of it has to do with these contracts. Bring people up to speed in terms of what your salary should be, give them an instrument of appointment, at least for 2024. And 2025, when you have been able to sort of normalize the situation, then you can talk about regularization, bringing them onto the general payroll in the way that it should be in terms of long-term, stable employment. All right? But we must start somewhere. And the sensible place to start is issuing them a contract and taking them to the salary that it should be earning in the first place.
But it seems as though that this appears to be a chronic problem in the system of the Ministry of Health, because your colleague, Minister Lacrette, has been handling this for quite some time. It seems as though a large number of persons fell or fall into that category of no instrument of appointment, and this is very sad.
Yeah, well, Terry, it's chronic because you also have nurses and other professionals who are under the Gren case, right? And basically, side by side, they're doing the same work as those who are under PSC and those contract and those who are undocumented. So it's a whole callaloo of mix-up kind of thing. And I understand that there's some nurses who finish, but they're still home. You cannot bring them in because in order to bring them in, you have to regularize first, then pull those who are under Gren case in to make room in Gren case, because if you take them and you just bring them in, then it's unfair to those who have been waiting in line at Gren case to get onto the system. So it's a whole callaloo.
Well, what would be your comment, therefore, as to what was really happening over the past 23 years?
Well, okay. Well, basically what we were trying to do is really shade the numbers, right? Grenada had underwent this structural adjustment program. And so in order to sort of satisfy the 9% fiscal responsibility regulation or legislation, they had to reduce the workforce. So they came up with this 3 for 10 thing where every 10 people leave the system, only 3 you can hire. That couldn't work in health to begin with. And so in order to satisfy the demand, you put them through Gren case. And
in other words, institutions were created in order to kind of shift people away from the banner of Ministry of Health.
Right, so that it does not look as if you're paying salaries, but in effect, you're paying salaries.
Yeah.
Right, because you're paying Gren case the same amount of money to run Gren case and to pay these workers. That's basically what you're doing. And so it's really messed up the system in a big way. And so now we are we're correcting this. We had to be truthful and honest with the population. It is painful. It is frustrating. And the system, again, you remember we have a system of migration where a lot of people left the system because they're frustrated. They don't have an instrument of appointment. And who could vex with them for that? Right? Because they're utterly frustrated. So now we, the government, must take full responsibility. Government is a continuum. We take full responsibility. We understand this is a problem. We embrace the problem. And now we are going to fix it. Right? It is on the outside. When you're in opposition, it's easy to say, we'll fix it day one. Well, the truth is, we intended to fix it on day one. And we approached and started the process on day one. But as in everything else, you cannot fix all of it on day one.
Takes time.
You have to adopt measures that are workable and where you can achieve the outcome over a reasonable period of time. And that's exactly what the position the government has taken. That's why every month there is regularization. Every month people are getting confirmed, right? And things are happening. I mean, the good news, people don't speak about the good news. You don't hear people call in the radio and say, well, I've been confirmed, and thanks to the new government. You don't hear these things. But every single month, these things are happening. Look, I have maybe about 50-something people are getting confirmed in a short order. Health alone. Yeah. And so the government is doing quite a lot, and it is costly, I must admit. It is costly. We budgeted for it. and it is happening, right? And there is a vision that the Prime Minister has that he's spoken about and articulated, Vision 75. We have to see Grenada in that place where in the OECS, we will be the #1 health service provider, technologically driven, right? Where we, instead of nurses and doctors leaving, people will be coming to our shows, where health tourism would not be just something that we're speaking about. Health tourism is something that we will actually deliver.
Right.
These are things that is going to happen in Grenada in short order. And these are high in the sky. These are not things we're dreaming about. These are things that we are building and working. We're building all that process. Every single cabinet meeting, these are the things that occupy our mind. This is a vision that the Prime Minister is working through and articulating every single Monday morning as we meet. And so we as ministers are carrying out the mandate on the ground within our various ministries. And this is how we're going to see the transformation. We're calling upon our Grenadian brothers and sisters at home and in diaspora, because some jobs are going to be advertised. We are looking for people. Look at what happened in the transportation industry. We just had, and because it's a vision. Where do we see ourselves in the next 25 years? And so we have to look for those jobs, whether you're at home and in the diaspora, look for it. They're being advertised. Look for the projects that are coming through, because some huge projects are coming through. People in the wider Caribbean and so, they're embracing these projects. They're applying. They're coming in. They're making the money. And if we're not wise, if we're not looking for these things, you'll just find a lot of foreigners around you, because Grenada is not going to remain the way that it has always been. There is a vision, a 21st century vision that has been properly articulated, and that is, we are executing that vision every single week. We are driving the process forward.
Fantastic. I think you have said it wonderfully indeed. Well, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, I would like you now to just share on the vision of the new hospital. So we take a moment and we'll be right back.
On Tuesday the 12th of March, the Honourable Deacon Mitchell, Prime Minister of Grenada, Carriacou and Biti Martinique, gave a press conference on national security. And here are the highlights of the national security press conference.
Good morning to the citizens of Grenada. Good morning to the members of the media who are here with us in person and online. Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Assistant Commissioner, for joining me this morning. I will use the opportunity this morning to discuss with the nation recent developments pertaining to some high-profile criminal cases that transpired, particularly during the week of 18th February to the 23rd of February. Many of these incidents have attracted the attention, naturally so, of citizens who are concerned. One incident in particular has made regional and international news. And there's been much debate and much public comment about those incidents. I want to start off by pointing out that when we are treating with criminal matters that are ongoing and under investigation, it is important for us to give the police the opportunity to in fact carry out their work with as much flexibility, with as much integrity as is possible. And it is important for us to appreciate that at the political level, we ought not to make public comments prior to being briefed fully and prior to having a full appreciation of the state of affairs, especially when the affairs are fluid, ongoing, and have not reached a conclusive or determined outcome. On the 23rd of February, I actually traveled to Guyana to attend the CARICOM conference. And as the incoming chair of CARICOM in July, which Grenada will chair, it was important for me to attend this meeting because Grenada now forms part of what is called the Bureau of CARICOM, which consists of the outgoing chair, the current chair, and the incoming chair. Notwithstanding my travel to Guyana, I was kept fully abreast, not just by our Commissioner of Police, but also by the Prime Minister of St. Vincent, who I had been in communication with since Wednesday, the 21st of February, regarding the escaped prisoners from Grenada and the fact that the Vincentian authorities had apprehended them and were conducting investigations pertaining to the yacht which had been anchored. It became clear that there was a real probability that a homicide had been committed either in the waters of Grenada or St. Vincent, and as a result, the Vincentian authorities and the police here in Grenada were collaborating in the investigation. As the Commissioner of Police would have indicated at the press conference held by the police on this specific issue, Grenadian officers traveled to St. Vincent to assist with the investigation. We should point out at this point in time that the Commissioner of Police himself had also launched an investigation in relation to the escape of the prisoners from the South St. George police station. As a result, and in an attempt to keep the public abreast of what was happening in relation to that particular incident, the Commissioner of Police and Assistant Commissioner of Police would have held a press conference on the Monday while I was in Guyana. We would want the public to appreciate that at that time when the press conference was being held, the situation pertaining to the 3 Grenadians in St. Vincent and the investigation was ongoing. It was fluid, and the public should appreciate that when it comes to criminal investigations, there are matters that the public simply cannot be told. It is as simple as that. The investigation and the integrity of the investigation has to be protected, and despite sometimes our emotional reaction and how we may feel about persons who are accused of crime or criminal conduct, they too have to be judged by law, and they too have the right to due process. So it was important for the investigations to conclude or to be more advanced in St. Vincent. As you're aware, since then, the 3 Grenadians were charged with immigration offenses in St. Vincent. They were returned to Grenada. They have been processed in Grenada, and they are obviously behind bars. So I am aware that there's been several conversations and several requests for me to speak on this matter, but it is important for me to be briefed properly before I speak. And so I think sufficient facts are known pertaining to the fact that they were arrested in St. Vincent, charged on immigration offenses, returned to Grenada, and that they have since been processed. So I will therefore focus my discussion on the investigation which the Commissioner of Police has carried out pertaining to the circumstances leading to the escape of the 3 men from the South St. George police station and consequential matters arising as a result of this. Now, on the 25th of February, when the press conference was held, the Commissioner of Police made it clear that from his preliminary investigation, that he was satisfied that if the proper standing police protocols were followed, the men should not have escaped. The investigation has now concluded, and that pronouncement by the Commissioner of Police remains unchanged. And it remains unchanged because the investigation has revealed that the 4 individual cells at the South St. George police station had secure, functioning, and proper locking mechanisms. However, the 3 prisoners had not been placed inside of the individual cells which had the secure locking mechanism.
Welcome back, Minister. When we took that break, I mentioned that we would like to hear from you with respect to the vision of the new hospital. What is the status to date? What have been our accomplishments? And where do you see the future with respect to this new hospital? what are Grenadians supposed to dream in their minds as to this particular project?
Start dreaming a medical village where you have a state-of-the-art, technology-driven, first-class hospital complex where we can do all major surgeries, where we're going to be having visiting professionals coming down because we have the equipment. They will be able to come, do the surgeries. They're going to be living accommodation in very close proximity. And that's why we call it a village. Just as how SGU, you have what you call an education or a university village.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Down there at Blue, you're going to have what you call a medical village over there at Calivini, because you're going to expect people to build accommodation for that purpose, because the hospital is going to drive, that new hospital is going to drive a whole new set of new businesses. And this is what you have, this is what happens when you have these new initiatives taking place. It drives a set of ancillary businesses around it. So you're going to find people coming in to do their surgeries, and Grenada is going to make some money out of this. The hospital, the hotels continue to expand. So we're seeing that is happening. Airlift is improving. So all of these things are happening simultaneously. And so we expect Grenada to really improve in terms of GDP growth, in terms of productivity, and all that is happening even within the agricultural sector. We need to look at Grenada as a whole moving forward. A lot of stuff is happening around us. We need to pay attention to those things. I know there's a lot of gossip, a lot of chatter, a lot of other things happening. Those are noises, those are distractions. We need to look at what is actually happening around us. The land has been purchased. The preliminary works are being undertaken. It has been budgeted for. The team, they are meeting monthly and they are reporting back, and progress is being made. So a lot of stuff is happening while we build our present health infrastructure. While we continue to make the improvements there, we are also focusing on the new hospital. So together, Grenada is moving across the board. All the ministries are moving forward together. And so ultimately, Grenada is going to be the leading OECS territory.
This has been quite an interesting overview as to the dream and the vision of Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell and his entire team. So the land has been identified and contracted, and internal works are continuing with respect to all the planning that goes into such a major undertaking. It has to be a lot of planning. So the next phase is basically physical, which of course is going to take a little time. Can you share a snippet as to when we can anticipate physical, boots on the ground, concrete start pouring?
Yeah. Well, Terry, I'm always careful when it comes to stuff like that. But I can tell you right now, they are considering the financial models, the how we're going to actually finance this multi-million dollar investment in health. So we have our people. I think there's a 3-month contract the team is working with. So in short order, we expect to get back something to report to cabinet, and thereafter, when we can nail it down, I'm telling you, this is something that our brothers and sisters in the diaspora are heavily supporting, right? And there are a number of entities who have the reach and the resources who want to partner with Grenada to build that new hospital. There are people who just love our vision and they want to be part of this. And so I expect in short order that when we settle upon the financial model, that we would be able to engage the entity or set of entities that may form a consortium of lenders or however it's going to be done to start this process rolling. I am not sure if it's going to pan out to be a sort of turnkey operation where they're actually going to finance and build. However it's going to be done, the final modeling of that is going to happen. But one thing I can assure you, that whatever the decision is going to be foolproof. We are not going to be entering into no crooked deal. And if you look at the way we function so far, all of us have functioned above board. Our decision has been heavily scrutinized at cabinet, and we have to answer the tough questions. And that is why we're so comfortable that the decisions that we make, is usually very solid decisions. And so we continue to build on that platform that we've laid going forward.
Fantastic. Well, don't get me wrong. The fact of the matter is, such a vision, such a project, it's not going to happen overnight. It takes time. The planning can take quite a long process. It can go into years. But there is this perception out there is that the NDC government is like an instant coffee. They come in and they've been doing so many things. People are even asking, no, where is the new hospital? But I think you have set that tone. And Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell has worked so hard with his team in getting so many things done that the public has now come to the perception, well, if it has to be done, NDC is going to do it, and they're going to do it now. But we have to bring about realization and context, and let the reality be known is that if you want a good job done, it's going to take time. And a new hospital project is not an overnight exercise. It's going to take some time. But reassure the Grenadian people that this is on the agenda and work is continuing towards that objective.
Yeah. Well, Terry, I can tell you for sure, this project is definitely going to start in a physical sense well before election. And our target is not elections. The preliminary works, a lot of the preliminary works are going to be completed this year, if not all. And so by 2025, there are going to be some physical things happening, a lot of physical action by 2025. Our target is not elections. We understand that there is an urgency of now. We got to get things done. I think for far too long, as a people, we've made excuses and excuses, and we've allowed the bureaucracy to tie our hands and our feet. We cannot be young professionals and just making excuses all the way through. We have to find innovative ways to make things happen, to hold people accountable for their actions and for their decisions. And that is exactly what has been happening. So I can assure you that it's not going to take a long, drawn-out time to get these things done. And if you know Prime Minister well, you'd appreciate that he basically sifts through all of the crap, really, and look at the how. Right? And things that we think, look at the pension, for example. When he brought this thing to cabinet, we never expected it was going to be done so soon. When he said no later than November, as a matter of fact, we want to see payments happen by October. We couldn't believe that it was actually going to happen. He summoned those at the ministry. He laid it on thing, and we made it happen, right? And so I expect the same thing is going to happen for the hospital.
At this time, we must say goodbye to those of you listening on radio and invite you to join us on the NDC Facebook online platform as we continue with this podcast. You can also join us on YouTube.
As long as the preliminary work is complete, the drawings and with all the MEPs and all the stuff that accompany in it, as long as it can, in terms of all the requirements with the World Health Organization and PAHO and so on, all of those things, we take all of that into account, and what do we really need in terms of our local context. As long as we are satisfied with all of this, then I expect to see us getting that process meaningfully started.
Great, wonderful indeed. Well, Minister, time has certainly caught up with us. So I want to thank you for appearing on the Heartbeat today, and to invite you to please share your final thoughts.
Yeah, well, Terry, let me firstly thank you and the Heartbeat family for having me on this Sunday afternoon. I really do thank you. Well, you know, by now I'm hungry, so I don't rush out to try to get a little meal. But thank you so much for this opportunity. I just want to say to the listening public at home and in the diaspora, there are a lot of noises, and the noises are deliberate. It's meant to distract us from the focus and to derail our progress. As a people, we must embrace change. We must embrace a desire for more and for better, right? And with change comes a little discomfort and a little pain. But we need to start focusing on the bigger picture. What do we want for our children? Where do we want to see our country? And together, with your support at home and in the diaspora, we can build a strong and resilient nation. I call upon all of us to partner with us as we continue to build our beloved country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Philip Telesford, Minister for Health. Thank you for joining the Heartbeat today, and do have a great Sunday afternoon. Here now is Senator the Honorable Claudette Joseph.
Good morning, everyone. And honestly, I didn't think about additional letters coming, but you're right. I would like to recognize our Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Legal Affairs, Labor and Consumer Affairs, Mr. Leenwal Perrott. Also, our Labor Commissioner, Mrs. Sparkle Grenade Courtney, our Solicitor General, Mrs. Siobhan Spencer Joseph, and let me back up a bit to recognize P.S. Francois in the room and any other permanent secretaries who may be here. Father Marshall, thank you for coming. Our new Director of Consumer Affairs, Mrs. Horsford Williams, and Miss Antwine, our Senior Administrative Officer. I'm not in order of precedence. Registrar of the Supreme Court, our new Registrar, Miss Melissa Garway Nelson, congratulations on your recent appointment. And Mr. Dorset Cromwell, Director of the NIS, thank you for allowing us to have this facility. Other distinguished ladies and gentlemen amongst us, ladies and gentlemen, media, staff, good morning, everybody. The current consumer protection law seeks to promote and protect consumer interests and rights in relation to the supply of goods and the provision of services to ensure protection of life, and also to ensure the protection of life, health, and the safety of consumers. We are all familiar with the issues that buyers and consumers of goods and services face in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. Defective goods, overpriced goods, goods that are harmful to our health and bodies, inefficient services sometimes, unfair trade practices. These are among the issues we all sometimes encounter as consumers. And up to today, with little or no avenue for redress. This is why today is a very special day for the government and people of Grenada. For in launching this Consumer Affairs Office, we have together achieved a historic milestone and turned a corner in how buyers and sellers of goods and services in Grenada interact with each other going forward. The Consumer Protection Act was passed in 2018, and in 2019, government sanctioned the establishment of the Consumer Affairs Office. However, between 2019 and 2022, the government faced various challenges in getting a fully functional Consumer Affairs Office up and running. And these challenges included the settling and approval for the structure of the Consumer Affairs Office, the lack of appropriate accommodation, the absence of a director of consumer affairs, and inadequate staff, among other issues that government faced in the period. And of course, the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic would have exacerbated those challenges. So I am happy to say that working together, we, your government, have successfully overcome these challenges so that we are able to launch the Consumer Affairs Office today. We have an approved, clearly defined organizational structure that now allows us to engage suitably qualified staff. And speaking of staff, it is my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce you to our first ever Consumer Affairs Director in Grenada, Mrs. Merlin Horsford Williams. Take a bow, Ms. Williams. Stand up so we can see you. Mrs. Horsford Williams comes with vast experience, and we look forward to working with her as she leads an efficient and progressive Consumer Affairs Office. And I pause here to thank the following public officers who held the fort and were the face of consumer affairs in Grenada in the past few years, which, as I said, were indeed challenging. We have Mr. Martin Felix, who was Supervisor of Customs on assignment. Is he here? Yeah. Martin. Thank you, Martin, for your service. Martin is now enjoying retirement. Mr. Elroy Pascal Price and Consumer Affairs Officer. Right there. And Ms. Asha Noel Price and Consumer Affairs Officer. Elroy and Asha are going to be, no, not going to be, they are now incorporated into the staff of the Consumer Affairs Office, so congratulations. Now, the Consumer Affairs Office is mandated to provide certain administrative and technical services, including receiving, investigating, and resolving consumer complaints, engaging in public education about consumer rights and general affairs by laying reports to the Parliament through the Minister, of course, publication and dissemination of reports, newsletters, booklets, posters, and other forms of literature for public awareness and education, awareness on radio and television programs, community outreach programs, presentations to business organizations. Also, the Consumer Affairs Office is mandated to engage in certain market research and surveillance exercises. And therefore, the office must keep abreast with regional and international trends so that it remains relevant and assesses the likely impact of those trends on consumers. In this regard, the Consumer Affairs Office is also mandated to engaging in researching emerging trends in consumer behavior, including negative impacts on the environment, conducting activities and initiatives that support the office's mandate to educate, inform, and protect consumers, assessing the quality of selected goods and services that may impact the health and safety of consumers, conducting data on price of selected items to inform understanding of pricing and supply issues, providing data and analyses to support policy formation. So, Madam Director, I hope you're not getting scared by now. The law also makes provision for the establishment of an advisory body to the minister and a tribunal for hearing and determining complaints that are escalated to it. The tribunal functions much like a court, and so it offers consumers a quicker and cheaper alternative to settling consumer-related disputes. I can see in future some changes to the legislation to introduce alternative dispute resolution mechanisms such as mediation and conciliation. And this will not only make it cheaper for the people, but also complement and support the work of the tribunal. Part of the administrative function of the Consumer Affairs Office is to facilitate the operation of the Consumer Affairs Tribunal and the advisory body. Today, 15th March 2024, was deliberately chosen to launch the Consumer Affairs Office because it is in fact World Consumer Rights Day. The day is celebrated annually, and this year it is celebrated under the theme Fair and Responsible AI for Consumers. In today's rapidly evolving marketplace, consumers are faced with an array of choices and challenges. While this diversity brings opportunities, it also necessitates robust maintenance and mechanisms to ensure fair treatment and transparency and accountability from businesses. As we navigate this fast-moving age of technology, we must adopt and adapt so that we derive all the benefits and opportunities these advancements bring. Artificial intelligence requires that in serving consumers, it is done with greater transparency and more astute protection of consumer rights. In this regard, the protection offered by the current law will need to be revisited to make sure that we are in alignment with modern advancements in technology. In this era of AI, transparency will require us to serve our people in such a way that they make informed decisions. From the outset, the Consumer Affairs Office will be embracing technology. This morning, the website for the Consumer Affairs Office went live. Via the website, the office will be offering much of its services online. I will pause here to invite our in-house IT specialist, Mr. Tisa Chase, to give you a short tour of the website.
Good morning, everybody. Standing on the protocol already established, I'd like to wish you all a very good day. And here we have the Consumer Affairs website, including a portal for the reception of complaints. On the homepage, we feature our consumer protection officers, past and present, in an accordion. And these photos will be updated as they conduct their duties in an ongoing manner. It's important that as a consumer you know your rights. So featured prominently on the homepage is a link to the Act, which we'll just open in a new tab. In the event that you are on your mobile devices, you will get a link to download you to the Consumer Protection Amendment of 2020 and all clauses thereof. Information on how to lodge a complaint in the event that you are unsatisfied with an interaction with a local business. An appointment directly, if you prefer face-to-face, with one of the Consumer Affairs officers. If you would like to know more about the Consumer Affairs Office, we have the About Us page, which features a historical background, the mission and vision of the office, mandate, values, what we do, who can access the services, and the consumer affairs functions, including, as Minister would have, and PS would have informed you of before, education, information, enforcement. In order to lodge a complaint, you have access to the Consumer Affairs complaint form. It's not necessary that you give your exact location. This is just to enable the autofill to easily access your location for the means of the form. You feel free to block it if you wish to preserve that measure of privacy. We have a little information on what is required for filling out the form, such as receipts, warranties, picture of the defective item in the case of a product. And here you will fill out your information. Now autofill has already filled out some of my information, as you will see, but because I have blocked the location, it has not detected exactly where we are, but it is required that you at least put in the parish. And regular information, including the information about the complaint, the item, the classification of the complaint. I don't know if some of the officers would like to share some more information on the various classifications of items, as well as the supplier information from where you would have purchased your goods. Here you will be able to upload numerous files related to your purchase, including the required receipts, warranties, and any photo evidence that you have of defection or whatever the case may be. A declaration that you are factual in the information you provided, and the opportunity for you to create your signature here as needed. This is compatible on mobile devices as well as laptops and so forth. And if you go into the Consumer Affairs Office, you will be able to have someone assist you with filling out this form in the event that you are not computer literate. The Minister spoke briefly about updates, and we will be providing those directly on the website. So the officers are on the ball. The office is on the ball. And here you will also be able to sign up for the newsletter that Minister spoke of, so that you can receive that information simply by inserting your email address. We have all Ms. Bain's information popping up. Sorry about that. But you'll be able to put in your email address. Again, autofill is very useful in the event that you are on your private device. And subscribe to the newsletter, which will be going out periodically based on the information dissemination. Here you have some of the functions: reviews, analyses, reporting, collection of data, various activities of the office, as well as assessments in collaboration with other stakeholders. We have some resources available for you. PS and Minister both spoke of programs that inform the public, so there will be a collaboration with media houses to have a consumer connection TV program. A list of boards and bureaus is available through this link. The Minister spoke of the Tribunal and Advisory Board. And we have links to relevant government entities and boards, such as the GCIC, Grenada Employers Federation, and so on. We also have a link to the frequently asked questions. So sometimes you may have a question, and instead of having to go type out an email every time, check out the FAQ, because chances are one of your questions is already answered directly on the site, such as what is the purpose of the Consumer Affairs complaint form? What type of complaints can be submitted using the form? How do I access the form? Is there a deadline for submitting? What information do I need to provide when filling out the form? Who will review and address my complaint after it is submitted? What can I expect after submitting my complaint? What if I have additional questions or need further assistance? And can I submit a complaint anonymously? Going back to our resources, we also have a photo gallery which will be continuously updated with the office and officers in action. We have a link directly to the Consumer Protection Act as well as the Supplies Control Act. And we also, for your convenience, have a list of control prices and the regulatory markups for those various classifications of items. That is it for me. At the footer, you will notice that we also have some useful links to the Ministry of Legal Affairs, Labor and Consumer Affairs website, Government of Grenada website, and the Department of Labor website. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tisa. So as you can see, as we open the physical office, we are trying our best to keep up with the times and to be relevant from day one. Hence, we've launched the website and the portal as well. Thanks again. So in setting up the office, we had several engagements with our counterparts in the OECS Commission and the CARICOM Competition Commission. The law mandates that the Consumer Affairs Office acts as Grenada's competent authority for consumer affairs in CARICOM matters. And in that regard, we look forward to continued working relationship with our colleagues at the CARICOM Commission. I thank our friends in the OECS and CARICOM Commissions for all the assistance given in setting up this office. Let me say that there is also another unique element to this office. In the same space, we have set up what we style a front-facing labor office. That means rather than having to take 2 or 3 buses to get over to the ministerial complex where the Ministry of Labor is housed, there is a satellite labor office at the Consumer Affairs Office where a labor officer will always be stationed to receive complaints and applications that the Ministry of Labor treats with. We are making every effort to ensure that labor justice is more accessible to all our people. And in this regard, this is another first for us. This launch of the Consumer Affairs Office is a testament to our commitment to safeguarding the rights and interests of consumers across our nation, and our dedication to empowering consumers by providing them with a platform to voice their concerns and to seek redress for any grievances they may encounter, be it deceptive advertising, faulty products, unfair practices, or excessive pricing. Our office will serve as a beacon of support and advocacy for consumers from all walks of life. In fact, this is another promise made, promise kept. For it was in one of our town hall meetings during May 2022 that our Prime Minister pledged the establishment of a fully operational Consumer Affairs Office. At this juncture, on behalf of the government and people of Grenada, and on my own behalf, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all those who contributed to the establishment of this office, including government officials, other ministries, particularly the ministries of Infrastructure, the Department of Public Administration, and the Ministry of Finance. And in relation to infrastructure, I would really like to thank Nathan. Is Nathan here? Yeah. He on the other side. He's still working? Yeah. I would really like to thank Nathan for his hard work in ensuring that this office is opened today. And also, there are some consumer rights activists who agitated a lot in 2018 for the passage of the Consumer Protection Act. They really laid the groundwork. The industry stakeholders and the dedicated team from my ministry, the Ministry of Legal Affairs, Labor, and Consumer Affairs. Please give yourselves a hand, those of you who are here. I know everyone chipped in and contributed in some way to make today's launch a reality, but I will be remiss if I do not say a special thank you to Permanent Secretary Ms. Anna Brazan, who unfortunately cannot be with us today, and Planning Officer Ms. Brenda Bain. They really went over and beyond the call of duty to ensure that this office is opened. And of course, in the absence of P.S. Brazan, P.S. Perrott stepped right in and was there, as they say, neck and neck with the other officers to make this a reality. So as we embark on this journey, let us reaffirm our commitment to upholding the principles of fairness, transparency, and justice in the marketplace. Together, we can build a society where consumers are respected, protected, and empowered to make informed choices. And this is what the Consumer Affairs Office will endeavor to do. Thank you.
Here now is Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell as he led his press conference earlier on this week on national security.
Good morning to the citizens of Grenada. Good morning to the members of the media who are here with us in person and online. Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Assistant Commissioner, for joining me this morning. I will use the opportunity this morning to discuss with the nation recent developments pertaining to some high-profile criminal cases that transpired, particularly during the week of 18th February to the 23rd of February. Many of these incidents have attracted the attention, naturally so, of citizens who are concerned. One incident in particular has made regional and international news. And there's been much debate and much public comment about those incidents. I want to start off by pointing out that when we are treating with criminal matters that are ongoing and under investigation, it is important for us to give the police the opportunity to in fact carry out their work with as much flexibility, with as much integrity as is possible. And it is important for us to appreciate that at the political level, we ought not to make public comments prior to being briefed fully and prior to having a full appreciation of the state of affairs, especially when the affairs are fluid, ongoing, and have not reached a conclusive or determined outcome. So I want to first start with the escape of the 3 prisoners at the South St. George police station, which occurred on 18 February 2024. On the 18th of February, I was briefed fully by the Commissioner of Police that a report emanating from the station had indicated that 3 prisoners, Ron Mitchell, Trevor Robertson, and Ativa Stanislaus, all of Paradise St. Andrew, had escaped custody. I wish to indicate that the Commissioner himself indicated that on that very day, he would be attending the South St. George police station himself to make inquiries into this incident. By the 21st of February, 2024, the Grenadian police would have received correspondence from the Vincentian counterparts indicating that an abandoned yacht, the sailing vessel Simplicity, had been anchored at the entrance of the Wali Labu anchorage in St. Vincent, and that research indicated that the yacht had been ransacked. There appeared to be evidence of blood on the yacht. There was no one found on the yacht. And the passports of 2 persons, Kathleen Marie Brandel and Ralph Herman Henry, had been found on the yacht. On the same date, the 22nd of February, the Commissioner would have further briefed me that his Vincentian counterpart had indicated that the 3 men who escaped from the South St. George police station were now in the custody of Vincentian authorities, and that in fact one of them had been shot. The preliminary investigation suggested that the 3 men may have been responsible for the vandalizing of the yacht, for the yacht being anchored in St. Vincent, and possibly for the disappearance of the 2 persons aboard the yacht. As the citizens of Grenada would be aware, on the 23rd of February, I actually traveled to Guyana to attend the CARICOM conference. And as the incoming chair of CARICOM in July, which Grenada will chair, it was important for me to attend this meeting because Grenada now forms part of what is called the Bureau of CARICOM, which consists of the outgoing chair, the current chair, and the incoming chair. Notwithstanding my travel to Guyana, I was kept fully abreast, not just by our Commissioner of Police, but also by the Prime Minister of St. Vincent, who I had been in communication with since Wednesday, the 21st of February, regarding the escaped prisoners from Grenada and the fact that the Vincentian authorities had apprehended them and were conducting investigations pertaining to the yacht which had been anchored. It became clear that there was a real probability that a homicide had been committed either in the waters of Grenada or St. Vincent, and as a result, the Vincentian authorities and the police here in Grenada were collaborating in the investigation. As the Commissioner of Police would have indicated at the press conference held by the police on this specific issue, Grenadian officers traveled to St. Vincent to assist with the investigation. We should point out at this point in time that the Commissioner of Police himself had also launched an investigation in relation to the escape of the prisoners from the South St. George police station. As a result, and in an attempt to keep the public abreast of what was happening in relation to that particular incident, the Commissioner of Police and Assistant Commissioner of Police would have held a press conference on the Monday while I was in Guyana. We would want the public to appreciate that at that time when the press conference was being held, the situation pertaining to the 3 Grenadians in St. Vincent and the investigation was ongoing. It was fluid, and the public should appreciate that when it comes to criminal investigations, there are matters that the public simply cannot be told. It is as simple as that. The investigation and the integrity of the investigation has to be protected. And despite sometimes our emotional reaction and how we may feel about persons who are accused of crime or criminal conduct, they too have to be judged by law, and they too have the right to due process. So it was important for the investigations to conclude or to be more advanced in St. Vincent. As you're aware, since then, the 3 Grenadians were charged with immigration offenses in St. Vincent. They were returned to Grenada. They have been processed in Grenada, and they are obviously behind bars. So I am aware that there's been several conversations and several requests for me to speak on this matter, but it is important for me to be briefed properly before I speak. And so I think sufficient facts are known pertaining to the fact that they were arrested in St. Vincent, charged on immigration offenses, returned to Grenada, and that they have since been processed. So I will therefore focus my discussion on the investigation which the Commissioner of Police has carried out pertaining to the circumstances leading to the escape of the 3 men from the South St. George Police Station and consequential matters arising as a result of this. Now, on the 25th of February, when the press conference was held, the Commissioner of Police made it clear that from his preliminary investigation, that he was satisfied that if the proper standing police protocols were followed, the men should not have escaped. The investigation has now concluded, and that pronouncement by the Commissioner of Police remains unchanged. And it remains unchanged because the investigation has revealed that the 4 individual cells at the South St. George Police Station had secure, functioning, and proper locking mechanisms. However, the 3 prisoners had not been placed inside of the individual cells which had the secure locking mechanism. But instead, at the time of the escape, they were in a corridor which had burglar bars and which were immediately located outside of the 3 or 4 individual locking cells. By their being there, it allowed them to bend the wrought iron or iron grill that secures that corridor area and to escape. It is therefore clear that had the men been placed in the individual locking cells, which had proper and functioning locking mechanisms, that they would not have escaped or had the opportunity to escape. Further, warnings had been issued at least 2 days prior that the men were high risk and were also a flight risk. And therefore, based on those warnings, it was even more important to ensure that all of the standard operating procedures were followed to minimize any risk associated with the prisoners being at the police station. The investigation therefore has concluded that there was a failure to heed the crucial alerts, a failure to follow the standard operating procedures. There was clear supervisory negligence and improper shift handovers, and that those factors contributed to the opportunity being presented to the prisoners to escape. So in summary, it is accepted by the police that human error, primarily in the form of negligence, played a pivotal role in the escape of the officers. I want to highlight that I have full confidence in the Commissioner of Police and the executive and management of the police. And I have full confidence in the officers of the police service. And that confidence is also based in the fact that I expect, and our conference here this morning demonstrates, that the police, the leadership of the police, is prepared to hold the institution of the police accountable in circumstances where officers fall below the expected standard of behavior. I will also point out, however, that as Minister for National Security, we do not think it wise nor sensible for us as citizens of Grenada to malign the police or to disrespect the police. We will not accept, nor encourage, nor tolerate this. The police play an invaluable role in public safety and the security of this nation. It is a dangerous job. It is in many times a thankless job. And it is a job that doesn't pay hundreds of thousands of dollars. But it's a job that is absolutely necessary. And as citizens of the country, we need to support and permit the police to do their job when they are doing so. And so, it is our responsibility to assist the police in ensuring that we build, nurture, and sustain a professional police force. And one way of doing so is holding the police accountable when they fall below the expected mark. But as I've said, that is not an excuse for wanton disrespect or disregard or hindering the police when the police are carrying out their duties. And those duties invariably involve protecting you and me, the members of the public. So what has been done as a result of the findings of the investigation pertaining to the escape of the 3 prisoners? The Commissioner of Police and his team has already embarked on a number of initiatives. And I will start first with disciplinary action. Disciplinary action has been taken against, so far, 4 police officers who were charged this morning. Constable 224 Shah George, Constable 520 Baptiste, Corporal 624 Edwards, and Detective Sergeant Lewis. They have been charged with various offenses under the Police Act, ranging from making a false statement, permitting the escape of a prisoner, and breaches of standing orders in various counts. These officers, however, are also entitled to due process and to have their fair day at the disciplinary hearing. The necessary procedures and safeguards will be put in place to ensure that they have proper representation and that they have the right to defend themselves. But when the process is completed, the chips will fall where they have to fall. It is also clear that the leadership at the station is a matter that requires attention as well. And the Commissioner of Police has also commissioned an investigation to review the role of the leadership at the station at the time. And when that investigation is completed, given that the leadership falls for the purposes of disciplinary purposes to the Public Service Commission, the necessary report will be submitted to the Public Service Commission, and the Public Service Commission will then choose to do what it is empowered to do. So I want to reiterate that the Police Service and myself as Minister of National Security is committed to transparency. It is committed to holding the police accountable in circumstances where it is warranted. In addition, the Commissioner has already issued communication to the divisional heads highlighting the following: a comprehensive review and assessment of all police stations infrastructure, and specifically police station cells infrastructure. And so a police force-wide assessment of the cell infrastructure is on the way. And that specifically includes the cells at the police station. Review, and if necessary, the strengthening of the outer cell doors of all police stations where cells are located to minimize and reduce the risk of unauthorized access is currently on the way. The implementation of self-contained cell clusters with integrated toilet and bathroom facilities will also be implemented. And in more basic terms, what that means is that we have police stations where there are no bathroom and toilet facilities immediately where the cells are. The effect of this is that prisoners or persons in police custody would essentially have to be moved from these cells to other locations within the police station to do basic things like use the bathroom or the toilet. That obviously increases the risk associated with their presence at the police station. And so they need to put infrastructure in place that limits the movement of prisoners from self-contained cell clusters has to be implemented. The enhanced and comprehensive use of closed-circuit television or CCTV to cover entrances and exits to cells and the cells themselves will be implemented across all police stations that have cells. The review and enhancement of protocols for the handling of prisoners. It is clear that in light of the finding of the report, of the investigation, that the standard operating procedures were not followed, that it is absolutely vital for the republishing, reiterating, and the enforcing of the police standing orders, particularly those relating to prisoner handling. Similarly, a review of the protocols for escorting prisoners to and from police stations and to and from courthouses or any other places that they may be required to visit, and the necessary training associated with this has to be implemented. The investment in equipment to transport, secure equipment to transport prisoners to and from the courtrooms, to and from the prisons, and to and from the police stations also needs to occur. And the development of a classification system for prisoners based on their risk profile and the necessary protocols that comes with that also has to be undertaken. So I highlight these issues to point out that some of the challenges are infrastructure-based. It is not something that happened overnight. Many of the police stations, and we'll come to that later on, are, frankly, should not be police stations because of their conditions. They have deteriorated significantly over the years. The buildings are old. They lack, in many instances, modern amenities, even for use of civilians, much less to be housing prisoners. And so part of that requires the investment by the state of Grenada into those modern facilities. And so a lot of the physical infrastructure and the challenges that the police face is not a matter of the police's doing. It is really a matter of the state doing. And the failure over the last several years, in some instances decades, to satisfactorily invest and address the infrastructure circumstances in which police officers find themselves working. Some of the challenges obviously are in fact policing proper challenges, and the need to ensure that the professionalism that we expect of the police force is always maintained, and that the standing orders are strengthened, that the standing orders are followed, that the audits are conducted to determine whether they've been followed, and that the necessary actions are taken to ensure that they are followed. And when they are not followed, that corrective actions are taken. So I've spent some time on the specific incident of the South St. George escape of the prisoners, but I would also highlight, as we are also aware, that disappointingly, during the same week of the 18th to the 23rd of February, and specifically on the 21st of February, a prisoner escaped from police custody while attending this Grenville Magistrates Court. Mr. Lyndon Date, who is still at large. Mr. Date was charged for capital murder, and therefore he is a dangerous person. The police have conducted several and are continuing to conduct several operations to seek to apprehend him. There is a reward of $5,000 being offered for information leading to his recapture. I want to take this opportunity to reiterate to the citizens of Grenada that it is our obligation to assist and help the police with any information that we may have pertaining to Mr. Date or any other criminal who escapes police or prison custody or who may otherwise be wanted. I therefore want to caution and encourage persons who caution persons who may be inclined to help or assist any criminals on the run to desist from doing so, and to encourage them to come forward with any information that they may have on the whereabouts of, in this specific case, Mr. Date or any other person who may be wanted by the police. The police will continue to do everything in their power to recapture Mr. Date. And we again reiterate that if anyone has any information pertaining to his whereabouts, that they in fact come forward and provide that information to the police. And just to round up on the week of the 23rd of February, the police on the 23rd of February would have also received reports about a gentleman who collapsed at River Sally in St. Patrick. Mr. Jude Hippolyte, 56 years old. Subsequent investigations revealed that it was a homicide, and as you are probably aware, 3 persons have since been charged in relation to this. On the same week of the 23rd, on the same day of the 23rd of February, the police conducted operations at Grandance and then at 4 Roads in St. George's. Those operations led to the recovery of 3 firearms. And in particular, in the case of Grandance, the operation was conducted on the Grandance main road, which involved a roadblock and the apprehension of someone who was on a public transportation, a bus, with a firearm. Now, snippets of the operation were shown on social media, and many persons, having no context, having seen a limited view of what was happening, proceeded in many instances again to make ill-informed, ill-advised, and ill-judged comments pertaining to the relationship between the police and civilians and the police's handling of the matter. I want to reiterate, first, that the police were conducting operations on the main road, which necessarily would have led to some inconvenience in terms of traffic and backup, in circumstances where it had credible evidence that someone had an illicit firearm on a public transportation, which means the lives of everyone on that bus was at risk. And we should be praising and thanking the police for responding with alacrity, for responding effectively and efficiently in being able to apprehend the young man, retrieve the firearm, and based on further investigations, conducting further operations, which led to the retrieval of 2 further firearms in relatively public places, again at 4 Roads, St. George. So the operations were successful. It is therefore important, again, for the public to understand that there will be times when the police are conducting operations, that those operations may lead to some inconvenience to the public, whether it's in the form of delayed traffic or blocked traffic or no access to certain places. But it is vital and important for the public to be understanding and to be considerate, because it is your interest the police is seeking in ensuring that it does everything humanly possible to retrieve illegal firearms from off the streets in Grenada. We would therefore appreciate that between the 18th and the 23rd of February, 1 week, there were multiple incidents that the police had to treat with. In trying circumstances, in difficult circumstances, and oftentimes in circumstances where the resources are limited. The operation to retrieve the firearms was successful, and 3 firearms were retrieved. The incident relating to Mr. Jude Hippolyte at Riversally was successfully investigated, and 3 persons have been charged. As unfortunate and regrettable as it is, the 3 prisoners who escaped from the South St. George police station are back in police custody because of the cooperation and close work of Grenadian and Vincentian law enforcement officers, and they are back in custody. The only unsolved incident arising from that week is, as I said, Mr. Date, who is still not yet in police custody, and we therefore expect that the public would assist and cooperate as much as they can in assisting the police in having him back in police custody. Any crime, a single crime, one is one too many. And the persons who are victims of criminal activity and their families deserve our empathy, deserve our sympathy, but oftentimes they also deserve their privacy. And we need to be mindful that when there is criminal conduct, that someone is a victim. And we ought to have regard for the families and the victims of crime in our public pronouncements. And it is not a time to score cheap political points or to try to appear who is first out the block with a comment or with condemnation or with hysterical rhetoric, merely to appear as a strong man or a strong woman. Crime affects all of us, and they need to be discreet, empathetic, and sensitive, particularly when they are victims, should be borne in mind. So while we want to have a lot of attention brought to a crime that may involve non-Grenadians because of the impact on tourism or how we think people may perceive or view Grenada as a result of a crime that affects a visitor or a non-citizen, it is just as important to appreciate that when crime impacts Grenadians, that they deserve the same attention, they deserve the same outrage, and the same sense of sensitivity, privacy, and empathy. Not because the victim may be a non-citizen, we should rant and rave more, but when it is a citizen, we stay quiet or we appear indifferent. So I trust that those who were first off the block and who were quick to appear as strong man and strong woman has the same level of outrage for the young 14-year-old victim in Carriacou who was brutally killed last Friday. And so I want to spend a little time talking about sexual violence against women and children, and the need for us to come to terms as a society with the fact that we have a major problem that we can no longer sweep under the carpet or turn a blind eye to or pretend does not exist. It is not a problem the police can solve. By the time the police is involved, as clearly is the case last Friday, it is way too late, and the consequences too devastating to comprehend. And so it requires all of us, in our parenting, in our spirituality, in our churches, in our behaviors, to recognize that we have to socialize our men in particular to behave in a manner where violence is not the first order of the day in treating with emotional issues, in resolving conflict, or in measuring your sense of value as a person, and in particular as a male. It will require all hands on deck. The churches, civil society, trade unions, Chamber of Commerce, Employers Federation, sporting, cultural, community groups, leadership at the community level in particular, for us to be able to successfully tackle this issue. The Ministry of Social and Community Development have been doing a lot in terms of various initiatives like the Spotlight Initiative, but a government on its own cannot single-handedly tackle or make significant progress in addressing issues such as violence against women and violence against children in particular. And it is particularly devastating and disheartening when we wake up to news that a 14-year-old has been killed. Think of the consequences, what that does to our friends and our family and those who go to school with her. To recognize that it is people who are known to them, who are supposed to love, care, and protect and cherish them, are the ones perpetuating this unimaginable pain and violence upon them. And so I call upon all of us to recognize that now is not the time for blaming or finger pointing or calling for the death sentence. It is the time for us to go back to our values, our behavior, and the sense of community that we need to be honest and accept that we have a problem as a nation and that we need all of us to tackle it. So, this last couple of weeks have not been easy. We all have to appreciate that it requires us to sober up, to sometimes be less emotional. It doesn't mean you can't express your outrage or condemnation, but expressing outrage and condemnation and then doing nothing further isn't going to address the issue. Because of the complex nature of crime and criminality, there are a number of initiatives that the government since last year announced that it will be pursuing. The first is the National Security Steering Committee, because public safety and security is not just about crime and criminal conduct, or minimizing or preventing or solving crimes. It is about the welfare and overall public safety of the nation. In times of normalcy, in times of emergency, in times of disaster. And there is no current architecture or framework in place to address this. And so a steering committee has been put together, comprising of representatives from a wide cross-section of government institutions, from the port, customs, the airport, the police, the prisons. That committee has begun its work. The idea is that ultimately we get to the point where the committee can recommend to the Cabinet and Government of Grenada a comprehensive policy document to create a national security committee to form the necessary leadership that is required to address all aspects of public safety. Second, on the issue of gun crime, I want to reiterate that a person without a firearm and a person with a firearm becomes a completely different person. The ability of firearms to wreak havoc and to be lethal is beyond question. And the presence of firearms in our communities pose a major threat and major risk to the escalation of violent behavior. and the consequences of the use of firearms. It is a challenge that all Caribbean countries are facing. And I don't need to point far, St. Lucia. I don't even need to go to Trinidad because that country is in a league by itself. But we can speak to our colleagues within the OECS. And you can look at the homicide rate in St. Lucia. In under 2 months, where already in excess of 20 persons have been killed. So it is absolutely important for us to understand that culturally, we cannot support the presence of firearms except in the hands of law enforcement in Grenada. We have laid before the Cabinet for its approval with a timeline of taking to Parliament this month of March legislation to amend the Firearms Act to first offer an amnesty for a period of no more than 90 days to persons who may have in their possession or who may know of others who have in their possession illicit, illegal, or unlawful firearms and ammunition, to grant them the opportunity to turn in those firearms and the ammunition without being prosecuted. In order to do so, we need to amend the legislation. So we are taking necessary steps to get the policy approved, to have the legislation read and supported and passed in Parliament so that the amnesty can be granted. When the amnesty comes to an end, the firearms legislation as part of this process will be amended to significantly increase the penalties associated with illegal and unlawful firearms and ammunition. We are also going to have to significantly invest in safeguarding our ports of entry to detect the presence of firearms which have been imported into Grenada. We do not manufacture or make firearms in Grenada. And I've been quoted repeatedly as saying that these firearms are imported from outside of Grenada and primarily from the United States of America. Not just in Grenada, but throughout the Caribbean and Latin and Southern and Central America. And so we have to do what we can, given that we're an island nation, given the porosity of our borders and the fact that we have several beaches, bays, and so on that people can access, to make sure that we can better patrol, protect, and reduce the risk of firearms entering. And criminals are quite smart. The firearms are oftentimes broken into smaller parts, smuggled and shipped in barrels, in conflicts, boxes, in all kinds of ways to disguise the presence of the firearms. And so we have to be very vigilant in dealing with this. But crucially, the statistics clearly show that it is particularly young men who are attracted to the use of firearms. And so it is important for us to develop the necessary social interventions to minimize the attraction of our young men in particular to the possession and use of firearms. Because invariably, they simply use it to kill each other and to kill innocent people. And the statistics in St. Lucia, for instance, is clearly bearing that out. A significant portion of the homicides are killings, reprisals, further reprisals that then are extended to families and strangers who get caught in the crossfire. And so it's important for us to appreciate that there is no glorification and there is no good end that will come from the presence of firearms within our society. The government will embark upon, thirdly, working with the court-connected mediation office to develop and implement community mediation in Grenada. Currently, mediation is only associated with disputes that arise or are going to our court systems, particularly the civil courts, for disputes between persons. I'm informed by the Attorney General that as many as 23 persons were recently trained in mediation. We therefore intend to work with the Mediation Office to develop a program that would allow us to place those mediators in our communities and to develop a system that would allow our community centers to function as mediation offices, that would allow neighbors, families, and whole villages and communities, if necessary, who may have conflicts, disagreements, or other issues, to be able to come in a safe and confidential environment, to sit with a trained mediator, to see how they can find ways amongst and between themselves to develop solutions to whatever challenges they may face. Because oftentimes you have disputes between neighbors, you have disputes between children that get out of control and lead to violent acts or activities out of frustration or anger or emotion, uncontrolled emotions, simply because there isn't a mechanism in our communities to allow persons with disagreements or other issues to have an opportunity to talk through those issues with a trained mediator to assist them in finding solutions to the issues that they have. The Ministry of Social and Community Development has been involved in a number of activities. The last time I had a press conference on this issue, we highlighted a number of them. Those initiatives will continue. They need to be ramped up. They need to be supported if we are going to tackle the issue of crime, criminal behavior, and violence, particularly amongst young persons. We have a serious challenge at our prisons because many of the offenders are repeat offenders. So it is clear that in many instances, when someone goes to prison for the first time, that there is a high risk that they will be a repeat offender. We have a significant challenge with substance abuse, ranging from alcohol to other narcotics. That also contributes to the high rate of recidivism that occurs at our prisons. So those are issues that require significant investment, significant social intervention, and significant policy interventions for us to be able to address. They are not going to be solved overnight. We are going to have to be systematic. We are going to have to be very sustained and deliberate in our interventions in addressing some of those. Having said all of that, I still wish to reiterate that it's important for us not to be hysterical when isolated, random acts of horrific criminality occurs. As shocking and as terrible as it were to find out that Grenadians may have hijacked a yacht and killed 2 tourists. This is an isolated, random, and horrific incident. But we should not act or behave as if every day Grenadians get up and hijack yachts and kill tourists. And so forgive me if, as the Prime Minister of the country, you did not find me eager to highlight a bad deed and to promote it and to publish it. I'm not sweeping it under the carpet, but I see no need to promote it. Grenada still is one of the safest countries in the world. It still is one of the safest countries in the Caribbean Basin. It is still one of the safest countries in the OECS. But safety is completely dependent on human behavior. It isn't something external to our behavior. And if we wish to keep it that way, we have to come to terms with the fact that there is a significant portion, still in the minority, of Grenadians that we need to address. The young men and women who drop out of school, the young men and women who are marginalized, the young men and women who grow up in homes where they are beaten and where they see violence every day, and so they think it is the norm. The young men and women and adults who suffer from mental illnesses and oftentimes are stigmatized, misdiagnosed and not treated properly, and end up in situations where violence happens. The significant miseducation of some of our men who believe that women are still their possession, and who still believe that it is okay to abuse children. Those are issues we have to address and tackle if we wish to keep Grenada as a safe place. And that requires us sitting down in a calm and coordinated manner and coming up with the right policy interventions to address those matters. If we do so, we will ensure that our communities and that the small paradise of Grenada remains a paradise with controlled and minimal crime. I am not utopian to think that people have no crime, simply because we are dealing with human beings. But it is our behavior that will determine whether we have a Grenada that is safe, or a Grenada that goes down the road or the path that many of our islands, brothers and sisters in the islands, are grappling or struggling with. So I would like to summarize by, again, thanking the police for their work, thanking the police for also acknowledging when the standards of behavior of police officers fall short. I want to recommit to the nation that we will do everything necessary to support the police and to assist the police. We met a situation with significant challenges. As I've highlighted, the state of the infrastructure of the police stations leaves a lot to be desired. We are not complaining, we are accepting the reality, and we've begun to take steps to fix it. I can give simple examples. The St. Paul's police station is under renovation and should be completed soon. The Lime building on the Carnage has been retrofitted to house the police headquarters. We are in discussions to moving the Grenville police station, which is in a deplorable condition. All of those things require significant investment. It requires planning. The Commissioner of Police, ladies and gentlemen, is a retiree. He's a retiree. I've asked him to stay on. The Deputy Commissioner of Police is a retiree. We've asked him to stay on. ACP Charles is a retiree. We've asked him to stay on. I highlight those because we inherited a situation where there was not little, no succession planning when it comes to the leadership of the police service. We inherited a situation where the recruitment policy obviously was ill-advised because you have large amounts of police officers being recruited at the same age and departing the police force at the same age. The net effect of this is that it becomes very difficult to have succession planning because everybody has the same age and they're exiting all at the same time. I just highlight those issues so that we understand that we need to be a little less quick to draw conclusions that are oftentimes ill-formed with no factual basis. So we really should be grateful to the Commissioner and the senior executive of the police for staying on to assist us with transitioning to a place where we can have better succession planning, where we can have accelerated training of police officers, so that the next generation of police officers can take forward the leadership of the police service. I want to close by expressing, on my own behalf and on behalf of the Cabinet of Ministers and on behalf of the citizens of Grenada, to the victims and the families of victims who have suffered, certainly in the last 2 weeks in particular, from the actions of criminals, our profound empathy, our profound sorrow and regret, and to assure them that we will do everything that we can to make sure that those who perpetrated those crimes be held to account. I just want to highlight finally as well, because the island of Carriacou has had it a bit rough. As you, in addition to the incident of the homicide of the young lady, 2 visitors to the island drowned while at the lower end of Paradise Beach. Again, I saw media reports which were inaccurate, which were suggestive, and perhaps, again, in an attempt to be the first to the draw rather than making sure the facts were clearly articulated, misrepresented what actually happened. It was a drowning accident. The family members of the victims were, in fact, on the beach at the time as well. Everything was done by the police and the medics to try and save the persons. Regrettably, their lives were lost, and we extend our condolences to their families. The Member of Parliament for Carriacou and the government offices in Carriacou have done everything they can to support the family in this difficult and troubling time. And while the more popular part of Paradise Beach does have lifeguards, the end of the beach where this incident happened did not have. And so we are looking to see whether there's an opportunity for us to be able to have lifeguards there as well. But it does reiterate the need for us as members of the public to pay attention to our own safety and to take necessary precautions to safeguard life and limb. So thank you. Again, this has been I suppose, a relatively lengthy presentation by myself.